Hey, in this video, I'm going to take you through my training on how to learn a jazz tune. This is for you if you've ever felt like you've spent time learning tunes, but then when it's time to actually perform them or jam them with other people, you've forgotten them and you just don't feel as comfortable as you thought you did the last time you were in the practice room. I'm going to break down my step-by-step method on how to fully internalize a tune in a way that you will never forget because you've looked at the tune from every available angle. Now, why would you listen to me about this? That's a good question. My name is Michael, and I'm a saxophonist, improviser, and music educator with over 10 years of experience performing and teaching music. I lead my own bands, I put out my own records, I play in other folks' bands, and this is the exact method I use to learn jazz standards, original music, and it's the method that I use with my students, and I think it gets them great results on the bandstand. So here's the outline that I'm going to take you through. Step 1, listen to it. Step 2, learn the melody. Step 3, play the roots of the chords. Step 4, arpeggiate the chords. Step 5, learn the guide tone lines. Step 6, embellish. Step 7, improvise. And step 8, make connections. This is kind of all encompassing, but this is it. This is what I'm going to take you through step by step on one of my favorite tunes called How High the Moon. It's a Great American Songbook standard, and it's a really great tune for teaching because it has a lot of 2-5-1s in it, so I think there's a lot of application here. All right, so here's the tune, How High the Moon. This is a lead sheet for alto saxophone because that's what I have, but I'll put lead sheets in B flat and concert pitch in the description of this video as well. If you want to do this right along with me and you're playing a different instrument, that's totally cool. And step 1 is listen to it a million times. So my favorite version of this tune, especially when it comes to playing the melody in a unique and creative and clear way, is Sonny Rollins, but a lot of people have recorded this tune. Another one of my favorite versions is by Ella Fitzgerald. So go out, you can even stop this video, go listen to a couple different versions of How High the Moon if you haven't listened to it before, or even if you have listened to it before for that matter, because listening to it enough is a huge part of internalizing the tune. If people are forgetting tunes on the bandstand, chances are they just haven't spent enough time listening to it. That's not the whole story by any means, but it's a really big piece of the puzzle here. Okay, so that's always step 1 is listen to it, get it in your ear. Now step 2 is just going to be to learn this melody, and the way I like to do this is kind of with a combination of my ear, because I've listened to it so many times, I should be able to pick up at least some of it with my ear, and the lead sheet. It's totally okay to use a combination. The only danger is if you learn something just from a lead sheet, especially if you're newer to the jazz language, that is going to slow you down a bit, okay? Because you're not going to get the subtleties, you're not going to be able to hear the way the melody is phrased, you're not going to be able to hear the harmonic rhythm, which means how the chords are laid out. I really advise against doing this without a recording present. That's why step 1 is listen to it a bunch. So if you've done that, then you're totally cool to move on to step 2, which is learning the melody with a combination of your ear and the lead sheet. So with that being said, I'm going to play this melody, and I might not be playing the exact rhythms because jazz is more personal than that, right? I'm going to phrase this tune the way I hear it and the way that I think it sounds good. I'm not going to play exactly what's on the page here. 1, 2. So that was the first 16 bars, and notice, again, I didn't play exactly what was written, but I was still really just playing the melody notes, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is step 3, which is play the roots of the chords along with the recording, or play along, or whatever you have available to you. You can even just do this with the metronome. And what this is going to do is get that harmonic rhythm in your ears and in your body. You're going to know how long it takes for these chords to go by, and that's really going to help you not get lost when you're jamming this tune. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Now you might say that's pretty boring, I'm just playing whole notes, and you're kind of right, but as soon as you can, it's totally okay to kind of step away from the whole notes, still just play the roots, but pretend you're improvising. Don't pretend, you are improvising, okay? So just improvise some rhythms using the roots of these chords in time. So I'm already starting to think like an improviser here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I can start to mess around with things like octave, and a bonus step here will be to start walking bass lines or otherwise start acting like a bass player by adding some fifths or some different notes from the chord, some pickup notes or something like that. If you have that kind of experience and knowledge. If you don't, it's totally fine to just stick with roots, but I really think, quote unquote, being the bass player is a huge step for learning a tune like this. I always think the bass player is the person in the band who knows the tune the best. Okay, moving on to step 4, what I'm going to do next is arpeggiate each of these chords. In jazz, we deal with a lot of 7th chords, which are 4-note sounds. E major 7 is spelled E, G sharp, B, D sharp. E minor 7 is spelled E, G, B, D, followed by A7, A, C sharp, E, G. So if you're not too familiar with 2-5-1 harmony or you have trouble building these chords, I do have other videos for that. If you are familiar with these, then here's how I like to fit each chord sound into the bar. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, for time's sake, I'm going pretty fast. Feel free to take that slow if you've never done anything like that before. Feel free to write out each of these chord sounds. Adapt this 8-step method to where you're at as a musician. Okay, moving on to step 5, which is learn the guide tone lines. I'm going to play the 3rds and the 7ths of each of these chords, but I'm not going to play both the 3rd and the 7th at the same time for the same chord. And what I mean is I'm going to form guide tone lines, which are kind of going to act like another melody here. So my first guide tone line, if I started on the 3rd, would start on G sharp, and then when I got to the E minor chord, it would go to G natural, and that 3rd of that chord is going to lead to the 7th of the next chord, which is still a G. So here's my first guide tone line here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And look at that, for this tune in particular, it really stays close to the melody. The melody was written off of one of these guide tone lines. You're just following 3rd, 7th, 3rd, 7th through this 2-5-1 harmony type tune. The other guide tone line starts on a D sharp, so the 7th of the first chord. 1, 2, 3. So notice, especially when I'm approaching 2-5-1s, I'm always alternating 3rd, 7th, 3rd, 7th. Now step 6 is taking a lot of the things that we've done so far, like play the melody, play the guide tone lines, and embellishing those things. Using notes from scales or notes from the arpeggios, or really just going where your ear takes you. If you stay close to the melody and the guide tone lines, then it's really hard to play something wrong. Focus on rhythm more than notes, because the notes are the thing that we've been practicing this whole time already. Okay, so here's an example of how I could embellish the melody. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here's an example of how I might embellish a guide tone line. 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3. So I have some 2-5-1 vocabulary in my playing, so for that reason I'm able to approach these guide tone lines with a little bit of language. If you're not there yet, it's totally okay to do what we did with the bass notes, the roots of the chords, and just play rhythms on the guide tone lines, okay? And step 7 involves improvising using only notes from the arpeggio. So this one is a little bit more free for you to decide where you're at with this piece, okay? So depending on your familiarity with the arpeggios, there's a lot you can do here. And what I like to start with is 2-note combinations. Pick root 3rd, root 5th, 3rd 7th, 5th 7th, 5th 3rd. Literally any combination of 2 chord tones is going to get you what you want here, okay? So here's that starting from the beginning. 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3. So again, I can be more free with this. I'm messing around with octave. I'm messing around with kind of the timing of the chords, although I'm still playing with the best personal metronomic time I can. But this is the first real free improvisation step, okay? We're no longer tied to the melody. We're no longer tied strictly to the guide tones. I can really start going with where my ear takes me based on these chord sounds that I've practiced. And finally, step 8, connecting chord tones using notes from scales and keeping chord tones on the strongest beats. This is where you can start experimenting with things like modes or extensions or chromaticism based on where you're at as an improviser. So kind of take everything that we went through so far and start being really creative with it. So if you go through all of these steps in this order, what should happen is that you've played the tune enough times and you've internalized the form in a thorough enough way that you're not going to forget this. Never be afraid to ask yourself, how many different ways can I play this melody? How many different ways can I approach this bass line or this guide tone line? Just be as creative as possible every single step of the way, and naturally you will start to internalize this tune. I always prefer the word internalize to memorize, because memorizing just means that you thought about the information a lot for a short period of time and you're probably going to forget it the next day or a week from now. If you internalize something, that means you got creative with it and you've approached it from enough different angles that you're never going to forget it. Even though it might not be right there, you're going to have the ability to remember this thing that you practiced for a long time to come. So I hope this was helpful. Find PDFs in the links below and give me a like and a subscribe if this was helpful to you. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you again soon.